I got me a new toy. It's TS100 Soldering Iron. These have been around a while. I know a lot of people who use them for the drone stuff. But to be honest with you, I don't really do too much drone repair. While I'm out flying, I got backups, and I usually just go to those. But I've always been interested in one of these for work. Up until this point, I had two choices, which is my old Snap-on butane one, which is nice. I mean, it did a pretty good job. But the problem is that little jet right there, that just shoots out a heat jet that if you get it close to anywhere's tight, you'll set shit on fire. So, like I said, that has limited uses. I had picked up a couple of years ago. I got this soldering iron, which is very similar to my benchtop job. It has temperature control. I think it was only like 20 some odd bucks, but it's essentially like a benchtop soldering iron. It runs on 110 without the big huge box, and yeah, I mean it's done its job. It's not the best thing, but I mean it gets by. But problem is, if I don't have AC power, I got to use this, and if I got to get in someplace tight, I can't use this. So that's where this comes in. So, let's open it up, see what's in the box. I've never actually used one of these. I've seen them. I know a couple people who have them. So, this is kind of new to me. It's got that nice, sexy packaging there. And then you got an Allen key. I think that's to put the tip on. Instructions in English too. Sweet. And you got the tip. This particular one, it comes with, I think you can get a square tip, like a chisel style tip like I got on this guy right here. Or you can get the pointed one. For what I'm doing on the road, I think the pointed one probably would come in a little bit more handy. Either way, I mean, you can make, these two are basically interchangeable, so you can make them work. So I'm pretty sure that, let's see if that'll fit. Yeah, it will. So maybe those are just extra screws, I guess. And I'm pretty sure this guy just doinks in there. And then you tighten down this here screw. All right. Well, looks like it's about it. And that's it in the box. So let me pop open the instructions. Normally I wouldn't read these stupid things, but I am doing a video on how this stupid thing works, so I might as well actually know. And let's get back to it. All right, so let's start off with power supply. Takes 12 to 24 volts to power it, which is cool because most stuff I work on I have at least 12 volts on. Oh, almost forgot about that. Oh yeah. People like that for some reason. So I have this old laptop power supply that you would plug into a cigarette lighter. It has the same barrel connector that would go in here. The site that I bought these from actually sell the cabling and power supplies for these, just so you know. I didn't buy them because I know I could make something, so that's what I'm going to do. For me, cigarette lighter really doesn't help too much. There's not too many cigarette lighters on forklifts, so, but it could come in handy. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to cut the cable right about here-ish, which will give me roughly 2 foot of cable to work with, and then I'm going to put a XT60 plug on it, which will basically be one of these guys will stick on there. So that way there, if I want to, which I'll use at work, which it'll be these alligator clips clipping onto batteries, or if I'm someplace where I'm not close enough to the battery, I could just clip on any 12 volt supply off of a forklift, And if I'm out flying with my flying buddy nerds, I could use one of these batteries. These are 16 volts. And I'll put a connector on this, like I said, just in case there is a point in time where I do need to solder and use a cigarette lighter for power. It has a second option for power, which is a standard USB style plug. I forget what these are. I think these are micro USB. It's pretty much what you get on fucking everything nowadays. But you would just plug that into there and then plug this. It has to be USB-C. Standard USB will not work because it only does 5 volts. USB-C, I think, goes as high as 12. I don't think it goes any higher than 12. So that's that. So I will not make you suffer through me having to cut this cable and make a plug for it. I've done that plenty of times on camera, and I do see the irony of needing a soldering iron to make a power plug for your soldering iron, but it just so happens that I already got one. So, but like I said, if this is your first soldering iron, you should buy the plugs that come with it. Also, you could use for these, they sell, if you have an old laptop power supply, like, hold on one second, like this, 60 watts, 20 volts. This will actually work. The barrel, I think this is a standard laptop style barrel connector. So something like this might actually work for that, but just make sure it's 20 volts. You don't want to overdrive it, because I know some of them get a little higher than 20 volts, or 24 volts, I guess, is the limit that we're talking about here. So let me put a plug on this, and we'll fire it up. I got my benchtop power supply over here. I'm going to power it off of, just so we could, so for testing and checking out reasons. So let's do that. I'll get right back. Now, before I solder this on, real quick tip. With this one, it's pretty obvious. The ground is this outer coating of wire here. It's kind of acting as shielding that goes around the positive. But if you don't have your wire that you're hooking up doesn't have this type of deal, with these barrel connectors, the outer silver here is always ground, and then the inner pin or plug is always your power. And it's a good idea just to check continuity between this and this outer shell and make sure that's your ground, because I'm not 100% sure this is polarity protected. So you might want to double check, but I'm going to double check this one. But like I said, I'm almost positive, because they never leave positives unshielded like that or uninsulated like that. So quick tip, I'll be back. So got the plug hooked up to the wire. A little janky on the heat shrink there, but I'm not planning on soldering underwater, so I'm not too worried about waterproofing. This also gives it a nice strain relief for when I'm yanking it off. That's what she said. So I already plugged this in just to make sure I wouldn't catch on fire and embarrass myself. But let me clean that off a little bit there. So you see it's going into that. Now it wants me to press the A button, which is this one here closest to the iron. And you'll see the actual temperature rises up. It pulls about 1.5 amps at 12 volts. So most cigarette lighters on cars are fused at 5 amps, if I remember correctly. So you won't have a problem with that. Now we're getting up the temperature. That was actually pretty quick for such a little iron there. Now, so we're up to temperature. So let's give her full blast. And then you just hold the B button in, and then it jumps 10 degrees Celsius increments at a time. And this is a pretty big pad here. So this will really suck the heat out of the iron. So this will give a good sense of whether or not this thing will be able to put out the juice. And it's melting. The iron temperature dropped about 10 degrees. And yeah, it's doing its thing here. Yeah. How about this big old glob of solder? Yeah, there's a lot of heat. It's going to take a lot of heat to get that mess off of there. Sometimes when you add a little solder, it'll actually help you heat it up faster like that. Damn. Let's try this guy. Wow, that actually did really freaking good. Dropped down to about 160 doing that, but it seemed like it kept up with it pretty good. Now I think, yeah, let's do this first. Lay that down there. Nope, I just unplugged it. Get a chunk of wire just to see how it does on wire. It should do just fine, but you know, for the hell of it. This is 12 gauge wire, so it's pretty heavy stuff. I mean, at least for the stuff I'm using. That's a flux pen too, in case you're wondering. Let's get the flex on her. Little tweezers. Let's fire it back up again. And she's climbing. You can see when it's climbing, those little chevron guys move up, and then when you're at temperature, they start going to the side. That means, I guess, it's just maintaining temperature. Let's crank her back up to 400 degrees. The thing like just sips the power. I'm looking at my benchtop power supply. Like I said, 100, maybe 1.6 amps is all this thing's really taking. So a little solder on the bottom there. This is when the chisel tip actually comes in handy. This helps you spread the heat out a little bit better. This is actually doing pretty good. What I like to do is I always like to add the heat to the iron and what I'm soldering. Get the smoke out here. Okay, yeah, that's pretty decent. Like I said, 12 gauge wire. It's a pretty freaking heavy wire. Oh yeah. It just flows in there. Look at that. Once you get it up to temperature. I mean, it's not as good with this heavy stuff, I would say, as my benchtop jobby. Because my benchtop jobby also goes up to, I think, 475. Which for soldering standards, that's damn near nuclear. But yeah, so let me mess with the menus. I'm not sure if this one has the features that the other ones have. So let me play with those and I'll get back to you. All right, we're back. Took a lot of investigating. If I didn't mention it before, this has a gyroscope in it, and that'll become relevant in a little bit. I cannot find anything on this how to access the menu. The manual doesn't tell you, and just about 6 other YouTube videos doesn't tell you how to do it. So I figured it out by playing with buttons. So I'm going to show you how to do it. I might be the first person in YouTube history to actually show how to do this. So here you go. You're in standby mode. To start it up, you would push A and then it would come up to its temperature. To get into the menus, you push and hold A and then tap B. Then that brings you into the first menu, which is the voltage and temperature that it's currently at. Factory reset. Working temperature. Working temperature is a temperature that it starts up on when you first push the button to get it to go. Personally, I like 350 degrees. Its factory default's 300. It's not a big deal. You could just change that when it's actually heated up. Standby temperature. Standby temperature is the temperature that it will go to if it sits idle for a preset amount of time. And you got sleep time. Sleep time is how long it will sit before it goes to sleep and actually shuts itself off. So I'm going to bump that up to 360 minutes for mine. That sounds about right. Idle temperature, or sorry, idle time is the amount of time it'll sit inactive and put itself into idle, which I think I'll knock that down to, we'll call it about 2 minutes. And yeah, so that'll kick it into low temperature if it sits for 130 minutes. Temperature stop, or STP. I don't know what the hell that is. Doesn't make any sense. Voltage off. If it gets down to 10 volts, it'll shut itself off. That sounds fine. I guess that's to save your battery. And I went back to the default mode. All right, back to that. And idle time, temperature stop. We don't know what the fuck that is. Temperature, you can change that to Fahrenheit. I've always soldered in Celsius, so that's what I'm used to. Left and right hand, if you want to see the display, if you're left or right handed, it'll just flip it 180 degrees. And then you're back to the beginning. So that's it. Let me get this stuff together and we'll do a recap. All right, we're back. All right, things worthy of note. It does not come with power cable. The place I got it from is, let me get the card right here. It's Race Day Quads. They actually had the best price on it that I could find easily. I already have an account with them because that's where I buy a lot of my drone stuff from. So if you go there, they sell this. I think it's $45, I think is what they're getting for it. They do sell power supplies for it and cabling if that's something that you're going to need if you don't have a laptop power supply. From what I understand, this is fairly common for laptops, that size barrel plug. So if you're not in a rush and you already got one of these and you want to see if it works, like I said, just make sure it doesn't go any higher than 24 volts and it's got at least 12 on it. As far as functionality goes, it seems like it works pretty good. I mean, it took me a little bit longer to do the 12 gauge wire, but it did it. So I mean, you can't argue with the results. What else we got? In the hand, it's actually really comfortable. It's about, I mean, it's roughly the size of a pen. So I mean, that's nice. And yeah, like I said, it's a lot more, I mean, to be honest with you, this is my go-to, and it's a lot more comfortable in the hand as far as that goes. Not that this is going to replace my go-to one, but it's worth mentioning. Now, yeah, so I'm going to pack this up. I have a little bag here that I used to keep all my other crap in. I am going to probably retire this old thing. I will keep this guy because even though it's kind of crap for soldering, it actually works pretty good as a heat gun for melting heat shrink. So if I don't have access to power to get my heat gun over to it, I could use this. So all that will go into the bag. Solder, flux pen. Like I said, all this stuff you can get at Race Day Quads. I'm not affiliated with them. I'm not making any money off of it. I'm just trying to make it easier for you to find it. And I think that's about it. And yeah. Again, I know people who have used the USB-C to power these and not have a problem. I personally have a little bit of, I'm a little leery about plugging cheap Chinese electronics into my computers. I mean, not for security reasons, but a little worried that they might burn something up. But I know people who have done it without a problem, so that's up to you. But yeah, that's it. Hope you learned something. Leave a comment if you got any questions, and we'll talk to you later.